had just heard the news that I had taken this job and that they thought that was an appropriate thing for them to give me as sort of a welcoming gift. Actually, that armor was very appropriate. Some of you, as Michael said, have seen that DCFS has been in the news, and probably most of you know that over the last 25 or 30 years there have been 17 directors or interim directors, and so this is a very challenging job. I do really appreciate all of you being here. When I looked in the door there, I had really thought I was going to see a lot of grandparents, because I had forgotten, as Madeline reminded me, that this is not a caregiver conference, that this is a group of people who are not necessarily caregivers, and so I had to rethink what I was going to say. I was really going to thank you for being caregivers. But tell me, how many people are from mental health? Anybody in here from mental health? Okay, good number. What about DCFS? Oh, okay. Got a lot of those. What about probation? Anybody in here from probation? So often we overlook probation and what we're doing, and I need to be reminded of that pretty often. LAUSD or any of the school districts? I know I saw a booth out there and they reminded me, oh great, they're all in the back, but that's okay. They reminded me how many foster youth we have in the program. And so where are the rest of you from? Other agencies? Okay, Community and Senior Services. Well, I really do appreciate everyone being here. I do think this is critical, and as you know, over the past 15 years or so, the number of children in care in Los Angeles County has dropped from about 70,000 down to about 35,000, but that's still way too many. We have about 52% of the children, I think, with relatives, and so that's one of our most critical components. And so often we get caught up in placing a child in a foster home or a residential setting that's more restrictive than really needed. And the most important thing, I think, is to place children with their families or relatives, if at all possible. I know that's a challenge. It's very difficult because I see the statistics every weekend where a number of children are detained. And what that means is that one of our workers has gone out in the middle of the night, knocked on a door, not knowing who's on the other side, and had to make a determination, often with the court's assistance, that that child can't stay safely in that environment. And so we have to find a placement for that child. And what we try to do immediately is to try to find a relative, a grandparent, or someone we can place that child with. But frankly, that's a pretty tough chore. And only recently have we been able to work out a negotiation with the probation department, which is a law enforcement agency, that we've been able to use their automated system to get criminal record access, because in the past it had taken us sometimes a month to get back criminal record clearances for relatives. And I can recall within the last 18 months going down to our command post, which is down on Broadway, where we bring in detained children in the middle of the night, seeing this young child, about 10 years old, brought in by one of our social workers. And the social worker said, this is the second night that this child's been here. And I said, well, what's the matter? She said, well, we have a relative who we believe can make the clearance, who can actually be cleared, but we can't get the fingerprints or the clearance back from law enforcement. That's so sad. So we've really been working over the last 18 months to try to improve our relationship with the Department of Justice and with probation to make those things happen quicker. In the department, and I won't bore you, we're going through some changes. The three things that I think are most important are training, technology, and policy. And there are a lot of things that we're doing to try to improve the way we do business, from moving from a manual which currently has about 6,000 pages to a manual that is much more concise, much more common sense. The three things that I keep telling staff are so critical for our staff are common sense, critical thinking, and accountability. And so often I see that those attributes aren't really used in everyday practice. And that's where I think you can be so helpful to all of us. You can be helpful because many of the people you'll be dealing with, whether they're children or families or grandparents, will want someone who can talk in plain English or plain Spanish or plain whatever. And I think too many times we as professionals get into jargon where sentences are about a foot long and there's only 2 verbs and all acronyms. And sometimes that is very difficult for people to understand. Some of you, I've been in the military, I've been in the public sector, I've been in the private sector. We all have acronyms, but so many times the people we deal with may not know as much about those acronyms as we do. So one of the things we're trying to do is put things in plain language. We're also going through a totally new training program for our staff. The 6 schools of social work have been the backbone of our training for the last 20 years. They've totally revamped their training curriculum. So it's a 52-week program for our new staff coming in. They'll go through a lot of simulation, a lot of role play, where they get to knock on the door not knowing who's on the other side, go in and confront a family and have to make a decision pretty quickly. We think that Learning Lab is really going to be of great assistance to us. We're going to have a residency component to that new educational experience, so we think that will be good. But one of the most important things I think we can do is provide staff with more technology. When I first got here, most of our social workers had a cell phone about the size of a brick. It had no email capability and no texting. We bought over 1,000 iPhones to give to our new staff. We've had some great stories. Just this weekend I saw a story where one of our workers went out. The young mother who had a young child had been ordered to do drug testing, and the lab said, "You've never been down. You haven't done what you're supposed to do." The worker with their new iPhone took a picture of the report, which was laying on the woman's table there in the home, emailed it to the lab. The lab said, "We made a mistake, you're okay." Those are the kind of things that take 5 minutes that could take 5 hours. We have all these great examples of where technology is moving us forward, but we still need that human face. The goal of all this technology is to give all of our workers more face time with families, more face time with children, because that's so critical. And all of the case management, all of the box checking, we've got to somehow work that into our daily effort. But I do believe that we need to have a step back and not be just case managers, but go back to the social work profession. I know not all of you are social workers in here, but I do hope that this will be an opportunity for you to talk to each other, to learn a little bit about what the other office or department does, to share an email address, to make a new friend. I think those relationships can make such a difference. When you have the ability to pick up the phone and call somebody or send them an email, and they actually return that email, or pick up that phone and answer it, that makes such a difference. I again just want to say how much I appreciate what you're doing. I know that the supervisor was here this morning to talk with you. I know he's a big supporter of the entire program, children and families in this county. We couldn't do it without all the relative caregivers, and we can't do it without all of you. I do have to go to another meeting, but I do want to say how much I appreciate everything you do for all the children in Los Angeles County. So thank you very much.